I have been collecting things for what seems like ages. It started out with erasers, and then spiraled into Legos, Pokemon cards, Rubik's Cubes, and now roller coasters. Collecting your roller coaster count or keeping track of your credits is a huge part of being a roller coaster enthusiast, and is my personal favorite part of this community. In today's video, I will cover what is and what is not a credit by my personal rules. There's no hard guideline that has been established throughout the community, so if you count something that I do not, then you're wrong. All jokes aside, your credit count is your personal record of how many roller coasters you have ridden, and ultimately the rules of the list is up to you. Okay, first of all we have to define a credit. A credit is a unique roller coaster. Pretty easy, right? Well, no. There are a bunch of weird exceptions that I will dive into later in this video. Besides that, you have to ask the question, what is a roller coaster? By pretty widely accepted standards, a roller coaster must be in some form powered by gravity and follow a layout made of coaster track and have coaster restraints. Now this sounds pretty easy to differentiate, but it's really not, and this is the leeway into all the wacky exceptions of what is and is not a credit. First off, I would like to talk about clones. If you do not know already, parks who like to budget cut build multiple duplicates of the same coaster across their parks. Six Flags, I'm looking at you for this one. In these terms, the ride experience is mostly the same, as the layout is copy and pasted from one park to another. Examples of this include the Batman clones, SNS 40's free spins, and Mr. Freeze reverse blasts. Despite the coaster providing similar experiences, I consider clone as individual credits along with the majority of the coaster community. After all, the coasters that you are riding have their own unique tracks and trains, so it only makes sense that they are an individual credit. Next, I would like to talk about relocations. This is when a park salvages a coaster by moving it from one park to another, or by selling a coaster to another company. This decision coincides with my previous point. In the case of a clone, you are riding the same ride but on two separate tracks and different trains. In a relocation, you are riding on the same trains and the same track. And because of this, I consider relocations as one credit, no matter how many times you ride it and how many different locations. These previous two rules are pretty widely accepted by the coaster community from what I know. However, this next set of rules are a huge gray area and are constantly argued about, which is dueling coasters. There are two types of dueling coasters, a Möbius loop and your typical dueling coaster. A Möbius loop is when a coaster goes around one side of the layout and comes back around to the second side without stopping at a station and unloading riders. Examples of Möbius loops include Twisted Colossus, West Coast Racers, and Racer. A normal dueling coaster has two sets of tracks that are not connected, which require riders to ride two different times to experience both tracks. Now these standards are relatively simple. Möbius loops are single credits, and if you seriously think they are two separate credits, number one, you are wrong, and number two, I now have a personal grudge against you. Anyways, dueling coasters are a bit more hard to figure out. A normal dueling coaster with each side having unique layouts is considered two separate credits, for example Dueling Dragons and Matterhorn. If each side of the layout is unique from their counterpart and offer a different ride experience, then they are two separate credits. Now here come the gray areas. A lot of the time, dueling coasters will either have a mirror layout or an identical layout. The mirror layout is where each side has the same layout, but is opposite of each other. Examples of this include Space Mountain at Walt Disney World and Wild Mouse at Nagashima Spa Land. An identical layout is where there are two sets of tracks that follow very similar layouts. Examples of this include Gemini, American Eagle, and Superman at Six Flags Magic Mountain. I go back and forth on mirrored coasters, but currently as I'm writing this script, I consider each side of the mirror layout as a single credit, which makes it a total of 2 credits. The identical layouts are 1 credit though. For those of you who are confused by this, here's a quick summary. Möbius loops are 1 credit, dueling coasters with unique layouts are 2 credits, mirror layouts are 2 credits, and identical layouts are 1 credits, no matter how many times you ride it and on each side. I go back and forth on these all the time, so by no means is this correct or the accepted way. Like I said before, credits is a personal count and is nothing really official. You just use it to feel accomplished and for bragging rights, so you decide your own rules. Anyways, back to some more gray areas. We already covered clones, relocations, and dueling coasters, so here's some more controversy in case there wasn't enough already. Water coasters count as credits, no matter what. People say if a water coaster does not have any coaster elements, then it makes it not a credit. For example, Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld San Diego has a sizable coaster segment with some bank turns. Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld San Antonio does not have anything of the sorts and only has a straight drop. People argue that since San Antonio only has a straight drop, then what is the difference between it and a traditional boat ride like Pirates of the Caribbean? They have a fair point, but I just ignore them. It makes it too complicated anyways. In these just two scenarios, I still consider each ride to be credits, as they are made by a roller coaster manufacturer, run on coaster track, and have coaster restraints, if that makes any sense. Next up is powered coasters. I was very anti-power coaster, meaning that I did not count them as credits for a long time. This was until the co-creator of this channel, who goes by the name Flashwing, convinced me otherwise. I always use the argument, what was the difference between a powered coaster and something like a dark ride or a train? In Flashing's words, a powered coaster uses roller coaster track and restraints, which makes it a credit, and after these wise words, I was able to agree and decide that powered coasters are truly a credit. Alpine coasters are definitely a credit. The ride is completely powered by gravity, which follows a track layout that was predetermined. There are a good amount of people who don't consider these as credits, and I will fight you on that. It's very clearly powered by gravity, like I said before, and it sits on a track, so I don't see why it wouldn't count as a roller coaster. And it also has the restraints that you would see on a typical roller coaster, so I think it's definitely should be considered a credit. On the other hand, zipline coasters is another huge back and forth for me. I cannot decide, but for now I'm gonna say no. Yes, it does follow a track, yes it is powered by gravity, yes it's basically an inverted Alpine coaster, but you are not sitting in a cart held in by a restraint, you are held up by some ropes or clips or whatever. Therefore, zipline coasters are not a credit. However, cloud coasters do count as credits. A cloud coaster has the cart that the zipline things don't have, and I consider it a credit because it has a cart that you sit in and is basically, like I said before, a suspended Alpine coaster. But this zipline coaster thing where you just hang from the track is not a credit. Another thing is some parks or rides will have a different experience if you ride in a different train or seat. For example, the Hollywood Dream at Universal Studios Japan has a backwards running train and a forwards running train. Another example is hamster wheels at the back of kiddie coasters. While I would say that you have to do it both ways to get the full experience, only one way through is a credit because you're following the same track. Now another huge area is conversions. This is when a coaster changes its track, layout, trains, or theming. Now generally when there is a retrack, I do not consider it as a new credit because it's still the same layout, just often a smoother ride experience. Now in the case of Rocky Mountain construction, where the coaster changes from wood to steel and the layout is completely changed, it is two separate credits. If the layout is changed slightly or reprofiled like I-305 or Mystery Mine, I would say that they are still not two separate credits. In the case of a train swap from standing to sit down, as much as it tempts me to say yes, I'm going to say no just because it once again follows the same layout and has the same track. Luckily I won't have to deal with these specific situations anytime soon, but it's eventually going to be inevitable. Additionally, rethemes and repaints where a coaster changes names or surroundings do not count as two credits because it is the same track and layout. Anyways, there are a bunch of more random rules, mainly relating to weird flat rides. I'm just going to rapid fire them off for the sake of time. Butterfly coasters are a no, Zamperla discos, no. Intamin surf riders, yes. RCDB really cursed me on this one. Skyline attraction coasters, yes. Mainly because there is one at my home park, and I feel like people don't count these as credits just because they're salty that they missed out because these coasters are unreliable pieces of garbage. Anyways, Intamin free falls, no. As much as it looks like a coaster, it is still a drop tower. Larson loops, no. Same thing as the previous point, as much as it looks like a coaster, it's just a flat ride. Schwarzwald's catapults, yes. Shoot the chutes, no. People who count this are literally crazy. Mock power splashes, yes. Backyard coasters, yes, though I'm never gonna get to ride one. Sky cycles, I'm afraid not. And traveling coasters, yes. Just remember the relocation rule from the beginning of the video. Overall, what is and is not a credit is ultimately up to you to decide. These are my perceptions and rules for what I count as a credit, and by no means is the way you should count them as well. Generally, I say my rules follow the general trends accepted by the coaster community, with a few small outliers. If you are indecisive and don't want to make decisions, then just follow the rule. If it's on RCDB, then it counts, or use a program that predetermines what is and what is not a coaster to log your credit count. Leading into my next point, now that you know the baselines for what a credit is, you need some place to log your rankings. There are a lot of programs that allow you to log your credits. Personally, I use Coaster Count. This website has a good amount of features and it costs only $3 a year. You can add friends, join coaster clubs, see nearby credits, plan trips, and of course log your credits. The best part is that they keep up a good collection on traveling coasters. Despite these positives, there are still a few things that I do not agree with. For one, they count identical layouts as two credits like Superman and Six Flags Magic Mountain. This really pisses me off. Additionally, they don't count water coasters and other weird exceptions, but you can add them to your personal qualifications, though it won't show up on your official account. Another con with this website is you just log your credits, you don't really get to rank them, which is a huge part of counting credits for me. And if you want free alternatives that do the work for you, then I have heard that people using Ride Count and Log Ride, though I never really used it myself. These websites are not made perfectly and they don't account for your exact needs. The best way to truly log and rank the credits how you want to is just using Google Docs or spreadsheets. For example, on my spreadsheet, I rank the coaster from best to worst and keep a note the manufacturer, the model, and the park it comes from. This way seems to work the best for me. I like coaster count for the simplicity of logging, and I use spreadsheets to rank the credits. I really like this system, and I've been using it ever since I have become an enthusiast, and it's been working pretty well for the most part, and I'm going to continue to use this system in the foreseeable future. Well, now that you know what is and is not a credit, and have means and methods to log them, you could start your journey of traveling the world and watching these meaningless numbers go up. I forgot to mention that these numbers get you basically nothing. You pretty much get bragging rights, and you may look cool to other enthusiasts, but that's really about it. To me, this is my favorite part of the community, and is what drives my passion for roller coasters. As always, thanks for making it to the end of this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.